Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently exploring the scripture Mysticism of Srimad Bhagavatam. Commentary is by my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananda ji Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let's get started. We are exploring the various encounters of Krishna, and now he is getting ready to come to Mathura. So today's episode is Krishna enters Mathura and encounters various colorful personalities. The morning after the speedy chariot carrying Krishna's party reached the outskirts of Mathura, Krishna and Balrama entered Mathura and enjoyed the sights of the beautiful and prosperous city. When the women of Mathura learned that Krishna had come, they rushed to see him, just as the gopis in Vrindavana had rushed to his side, leaving whatever they were doing at that time. Krishna word itself means attraction, akarshan shakti. So whoever, whether they see him or not, just by his name and the aura, they were all propelled to him. While Krishna and Balrama were looking around, they met a washerman who was employed by Kans. He was carrying a large bundle of multicolored or royal clothing that had been washed and dyed. Krishna said, "Oh brother, give us those clothes. We should become like people of the city, and we have only these old rustic clothes." But the washerman was arrogant and replied, "You rustic, uncivilized, uneducated cowherds, how dare you ask for these royal robes that deck the bodies of civilized people?" Then Krishna gave him one slap on his head and his head severed from his body. Krishna, Balrama and all the cowherd boys and men then adorned themselves with those wonderful royal clothes. Although the clothes were not in a perfect fit, the party looked quite spectacular as they continued walking along the roadside. Fortunately, the next person they encountered was a tailor, who was also a special attendant of Kans. When the tailor saw Krishna, he was delighted, and forgetting about Kans, he honored Krishna's request and adjusted the fit of their clothes. Thus Krishna, Balrama and the others were attired in beautiful multicolored garments that fit each of them perfectly. Next, they met a gardener or Mali named Sudama, whose job was to pluck the best flowers and weave them into garlands for the royal household. So this is a coincidence that his name was Sudama also, and Lord Krishna also had a childhood friend called Sudama. So that you are not confused, I wanted to clarify. Overjoyed to see the two divine brothers and their party, Sudama offered them the hospitality of his home and adorned each of them with a most colorful, fragrant flower. Lord Shri Krishna was pleased with Sudama and said, "What should I do for you, O Lord?" Sudama replied, "May I develop unflinching devotion to your lotus feet. May I have friendliness with all your devotees, and may I have unconditional compassion for all living beings." Lord Krishna granted his boon. Further, he added, "May you be endowed with strength, long life, fame and glory." Thus, having offered their blessings to Sudama, Krishna and Balarama went on. The party then encountered a young maid servant of Kansa who was hunchbacked and greatly disfigured because of her hump. Her name was Tribakra or Kubja, meaning one who is bent in three ways. She was carrying vessels containing fragrant and medicinal sandal paste in order to anoint Kans and other members of their royal household. Krishna approached her saying, "O beautiful face, for whom are you carrying the sandal paste? Please give it to me." Tribakra replied, "Having seen you both, my heart has been completely invaded by your beauty. I will give you this paste because my mind can no longer serve Kamsa." Thus saying, she gave yellow paste for Krishna's blue complexion and red paste for Balrama's fair complexion. Krishna was highly pleased and wanted to bestow his grace upon her. So he approached Kubja Tribakra is more common name, which means hunchbacked, and placed her feet on her toes and 2 fingers on her chin. Just as a pot maker reshapes the pot, his molding by just putting 2 fingers in the right place, so too Krishna transfigured her body. She became completely straight and a most beautiful woman. Mystical meaning. Mathura, the name of the city which was ruled by Kans, is a modification of the Sanskrit word Madhura. Madhur means sweet, and mystically it implies a region of our heart, the innermost center within us where God abides. However, until Krishna arrives there, Mathura is not so sweet. It is ruled by the demon Kansa. Unfortunately, that is the predicament of the heart in the majority of people. The heart that ought to have been a shrine for the divine self has become a shrine for the ego. The demoniac forces symbolic of ignorance bring about restriction in the flow of sweetness within our heart. If ignorance is removed, our heart overflows with the sweetness of God. In the stage of spiritual movement, being symbolized as Krishna moves to Mathura, Kundalini is moving through the heart center or Anahata Chakra. To arrive at this stage, an aspirant has already generated a high level of understanding and a great predominance of pure impressions in the unconscious. Therefore, the fight with his enemies is a profound one in the depths of the heart of unconscious. And the obstacle to be removed are the most subtle aspects of ignorance. The washerman is the first of several colorful personalities that Krishna's party encounters in Mathura. Mystically speaking, the beheading of the washerman represents a stage in spiritual movement in which mere intellectual understanding is transcended in an aspirant. Intellectual understanding is a washerman in everyone. It handles all the clothes or resources given by nature. The physical body, the pranas, the senses, the mind, and all the psychological equipment of our personality, all our talents, relationships, and circumstances. However, it handles them under the control of Kansa, or the ego born of ignorance. Impure intellect is constantly evaluating the world around us as well as the thoughts, perceptions, and feelings within us in the light of the deluded demands of the ego. In other words, we become like slaves and puppets to our ego. Such impure intellect is virtually powerless before the ego. As spiritual movement progresses, however, a transition occurs. Limited intellectual understanding is transcended. Mystical or intuitional understanding begins to take control of our psychological resources. Through reflection and spiritual discipline, we begin to understand that the body is not ours, the mind is not ours. God gave us these, and so we must utilize them towards the attainment of enlightenment. That is the best prayer, best possible outcome. Such purified understanding puts us beyond the power of ego. Reflecting on the limitations of intellect does not mean that we should not advance our intellect academically. An aspirant must exercise intellect at every stage of his development, but intellectual attainment should not make us proud. No matter how much we know, no matter how many titles, diplomas, and awards decorate our walls, the world of intellect is of a relative nature and is shallow. Mere intellectual attainments in itself never change our inner life. It simply masks the real defects that exist within us. Therefore, the various illusions associated with impure intellect must be beheaded as an aspirant advances. So with this, we conclude our satsang for today, and we will continue this mystical meaning in tomorrow's satsang. This is Swami Nikhilanand. Om Tat Sat.